Here's something that'll mess with you. You'll spend 20 minutes researching which brand of paper towels to buy to save $2. But you've been paying $14.99 for a streaming service you haven't opened in 4 months, and your brain just doesn't care. That's not laziness. That's not being bad with money. That's your prefrontal cortex getting hijacked by something behavioral economists call subscription blindness. And it's costing you way more than you think. According to a 2024 study from the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, the average American household is now paying for 14.3 recurring subscriptions. Not 7, not 10, 14.3. That's streaming services, apps, software, meal kits, fitness memberships, cloud storage, music platforms, and a bunch of things you probably forgot you even signed up for. And here's the part that should genuinely scare you. When researchers asked people to estimate how much they spend on subscriptions per month, the average guess was $79. The actual average, $219 per month. That's a $140 perception gap. Your brain is underestimating your subscription spending by nearly 200%. And that gap isn't random, it's engineered. Let me tell you how this works. Because once you see the mechanism, you can't unsee it. And that awareness is worth thousands of dollars a year. Your brain runs on something psychologists call mental accounting. You don't have one big pool of money in your head. You have invisible buckets. There's the grocery bucket, the gas bucket, the fun bucket, the savings bucket. And subscriptions, they don't fit cleanly into any of those categories. So your brain does something weird. It creates a separate subscription bucket and then it kind of forgets to check it. Research from Duke University found that recurring charges activate different neural pathways than one-time purchases. When you buy something once, your brain codes it as a transaction. Money out, thing acquired, done. But subscriptions, your brain codes them as background noise. It's like the hum of your refrigerator. You know it's there. You know it costs money. But you're not actively thinking about it every single day. And that's exactly what companies are counting on. Here's where it gets darker. The subscription economy isn't just convenient for businesses, it's a psychological goldmine. A 2023 analysis by McKinsey found that subscription-based business models have grown 435% over the past 9 years. And the reason is simple. Customer lifetime value. When you buy a product once, a company gets your money once. But when you subscribe, they get your money every single month, potentially forever, until you actively decide to stop them. And most people never do. But the real genius isn't just getting you to subscribe. It's keeping you subscribed even when you're not using it. And this is where your brain becomes your worst enemy. Let's start with the most obvious trap, the free trial. You've done this. Everyone's done this. You sign up for a 7-day free trial. You put in your credit card info because they require it. You tell yourself you'll cancel before the trial ends, and then life happens. You forget. The charge hits your account, and now you're paying $12.99 a month for something you tried once and never touched again. A study from the Federal Trade Commission found that 42% of people who sign up for free trials forget to cancel before being charged. That's not you being forgetful. That's the design. Companies know that if they can get your payment information and activate the subscription, inertia does the rest of the work. Canceling requires action. Not canceling requires nothing. And human brains are wired to avoid action when possible. But here's what nobody talks about. Even when you remember to cancel, your brain fights you. Psychologists call this the endowment effect. Once you own something, even if it's just access to a streaming library you never use, your brain values it more than it did before you had it. Research from the University of Chicago found that people demand roughly twice as much money to give up something they own compared to what they'd pay to acquire it. So when you're staring at that cancel button, your brain whispers, but what if you want to watch something next month? What if there's a new show? What if you regret this? And you hesitate. And that hesitation costs you another $14.99. And another, and another. And then there's the sunk cost fallacy on steroids. You've been paying for Spotify Premium for 6 years. That's $719 you've spent. Your brain looks at that number and thinks, I've invested so much already. If I cancel now, all that money was wasted. Except that's not how it works. The money is already gone. Keeping the subscription doesn't make past payments more valuable. But your brain doesn't process it that way. Researchers at MIT found that the longer someone has been subscribed to something, the less likely they are to cancel, even if their usage drops to zero. The subscription itself becomes an identity. I'm a Spotify person. I'm an Apple person, and canceling feels like losing part of yourself. Now let's talk about the pricing psychology that makes this whole trap even stickier. $9.99, $12.99, $14.99. Notice something? Almost every subscription ends in 0.99. That's not random. That's a pricing heuristic called charm pricing, and it's backed by decades of research. A study from the Journal of Consumer Research found that prices ending in 0.99 are perceived as significantly cheaper than round numbers, even when the difference is 1 cent. Your brain sees $9.99 and rounds down to $9. It sees $10 and treats it like a bigger psychological barrier. But here's the thing. When you're evaluating whether to cancel, your brain does the same trick in reverse. $9.99 feels small, insignificant, not worth the effort of logging in, navigating the settings, clicking through the guilt-inducing cancellation flow. So you let it ride. And companies know this. A 2022 exposé found that the average cancellation process for a subscription service involves 5.7 clicks, 2 confirmation screens, and at least 1 guilt message. Like, are you sure you'll lose access to everything forever? Compare that to signing up, which takes 1 click. The friction is intentional. Behavioral economists call this choice architecture. The easier something is to do, the more likely people are to do it. The harder it is, the more likely they are to give up. And companies have architected the subscription experience to make it effortless to start and exhausting to stop. But the most insidious part? The way subscriptions mess with your perception of value over time. When you first subscribe to something, you use it. Of course you do. You just signed up, you're excited, you're getting your money's worth. But research from Stanford found that subscription usage follows a predictable decay curve. In month 1, you use it constantly. By month 3, usage drops by 40%. By month 6, 68% of subscribers are using the service less than once per week. But the payment keeps happening every single month. And because the charge is automatic, you don't feel the pain of paying. Studies using brain imaging found that when people hand over physical cash, their brain's pain centers light up. That's why spending cash hurts more than swiping a card. But subscriptions, they're even more detached. The money leaves your account while you're asleep. You never see it. You never feel it. It's just gone. And here's where things get genuinely wild. Some people are now paying for multiple subscriptions that do the exact same thing. A 2024 survey found that 31% of Americans are paying for at least 2 streaming services with overlapping content libraries. You've got Netflix and Hulu, or HBO Max and Paramount Plus, or Disney Plus and Apple TV. And there's enough unique content on each one that your brain justifies keeping both. Except when you actually sit down to watch something. You spend 20 minutes scrolling through all of them, can't decide, and end up re-watching The Office for the 47th time on one service while the other 3 sit unused. Your brain treats variety as inherently valuable, even when that variety creates decision paralysis that prevents you from using any of them effectively. And then there are the subscriptions you're paying for that you genuinely forgot exist. Raise your hand if you've ever discovered a recurring charge on your bank statement and had to Google what it was. Yeah, me too. A study from West Monroe Partners found that the average person is paying for 2.3 subscriptions they no longer use or don't remember signing up for. That's $37 per month on average. That's $444 a year, just evaporating. And the reason you don't notice is because of something called the salience bias. Your brain pays attention to big, dramatic changes. A $500 car repair, you notice, you stress about it, you adjust your budget. But $9.99 leaving your account every month? That's background noise. It doesn't trigger your threat detection system, so it just keeps happening. Now let's talk about the subscriptions that actually feel worth it. Because not all subscriptions are traps. Some of them genuinely add value to your life. The question is, how do you know the difference? And this is where most people's brains completely fail them. Because value isn't objective, it's relative. And your brain is terrible at calculating relative value over time. Here's a thought experiment. You're paying $15 a month for a gym membership you use twice a month. That's $7.50 per visit. Meanwhile, drop-in classes at that same gym cost $12. Objectively, the membership is saving you money. But here's the thing, if you didn't have the membership, would you actually pay $12 twice a month to go to the gym? Or would you go once or not at all and save way more money? The subscription creates the illusion of value by anchoring you to the drop-in price. Your brain sees $7.50 per visit versus $12 per visit and thinks you're winning. But the real comparison should be $15 per month versus $0 per month if you canceled and found free ways to exercise. And this is the trap with almost every subscription. Your brain compares the subscription price to the non-subscription price of the same thing. Spotify Premium costs $11.99 a month. Buying individual songs costs $1.29 each. If you listen to more than 9 songs a month, the subscription is a better deal, right? Except that framing assumes you'd be buying those songs if Spotify didn't exist. But you wouldn't. You'd listen to the radio, or YouTube, or nothing. The subscription creates its own demand. And your brain treats that demand as if it was always there. But here's what's really happening. Companies have figured out how to monetize your future self. When you subscribe to something, you're making a prediction about your future behavior. You're betting that future you will use this service enough to justify the cost. And sometimes that bet pays off, but often it doesn't. Because your brain is overly optimistic about future you. Psychologists call this the planning fallacy. You think future you will go to the gym 5 times a week. Future, you will meal prep every Sunday. Future, you will watch all those documentaries you saved on Netflix. But research from the University of Pennsylvania found that people overestimate their future engagement with subscriptions by an average of 84%. You think you'll use it twice as much as you actually will. And companies know this. They're selling to optimistic present you, not realistic future you. And the longer you stay subscribed, the harder it gets to leave. Because now there's data, there's history. There's a record of every song you've ever liked on Spotify, every show you've ever watched on Netflix, every workout you've logged on Peloton. That data feels valuable. Your brain treats it like an asset. Canceling means losing that asset, even though objectively a list of songs you liked in 2019 has zero financial value. But psychologically, it feels like you're throwing away a piece of yourself. Researchers at Yale found that people are significantly less likely to cancel subscriptions that have accumulated personalized data, even when they're no longer using the service. The data becomes a digital security blanket. So what's the actual cost of all this? Let's do the math. The average American is spending $219 per month on subscriptions. That's $2,628 per year. Invested at a conservative 7% annual return over 30 years, that's $266,000. $250,000. Not from big, flashy purchases, from $9.99 here and $14.99 there, compounding invisibly in the background. And here's the part that should make you angry. Most of that money is going to services you're barely using. The West Monroe study found that people are getting active value from only 47% of their subscriptions. The other 53%? Dead weight. You're paying $1,394 per year for things you're not using. That's a month and a half of rent for some people. That's a vacation. That's an emergency fund. Just sitting there month after month because your brain can't be bothered to click a cancel button. And the companies know exactly what they're doing. A leaked internal memo from a major streaming service literally said, "Our goal is to make cancellations so annoying that customers give up halfway through." That's not customer service, that's hostage taking. And it's legal because you agreed to it. You clicked "I agree to the terms and conditions" without reading them. And buried in paragraph 47 of those terms is a clause that says they can make cancellation as difficult as they want, as long as it's technically possible. But here's where it gets even more predatory. Dynamic pricing and tiered subscriptions. You start with the basic plan, $8.99. Then you get an email. Upgrade to premium for just $5 more and get ad-free streaming. And your brain does the math. $5, that's one coffee. Sure. So now you're at $13.99. Then another email. Add the family plan for $3 more. And now you're at $16.99. And every single one of those micro upgrades felt small, reasonable, worth it. But you've gone from $8.99 to $16.99 without ever making one decision that felt significant. Researchers call this the slippery slope effect. Small incremental changes don't trigger your threat response, but the cumulative effect is massive. And then there are the subscriptions that used to be one-time purchases. Adobe Creative Suite used to cost $1,200 up front. You paid once, you owned it forever. Now it's $54.99 per month. That's $660 per year. After 2 years, you've paid more than the old one-time price. But you don't own anything, you're renting. And if you stop paying, you lose access to everything, including files you created. Microsoft Office? Same thing, used to be a one-time purchase. Now it's Microsoft 365, $6.99 per month. This is called the servicification of products. Companies realize they can make way more money by turning ownership into access. And your brain doesn't rebel because $6.99 feels cheaper than $149 up front, even though over 5 years you'll pay $419. So let's talk about what you can actually do about this. Because awareness without action is just expensive anxiety. First, the subscription audit. And I know this sounds tedious, but it's worth it. Grab your bank statement, go through every recurring charge from the last 3 months, write them down, all of them. Then ask yourself 3 questions for each one. 1. Have I used this in the last 30 days? 2. If I didn't already have this, would I sign up for it today at this price? 3. Is there a free or cheaper alternative that would meet 80% of my needs? If the answer to any of those is no, cancel it right now. Don't wait. Don't tell yourself you'll do it later. Your brain will talk you out of it. Do it while you're thinking about it. Second, set up a subscription spending limit. Treat subscriptions like a category in your budget. Decide how much you're willing to spend per month total. Maybe it's $50. Maybe it's $100. But pick a number and stick to it. When you hit that limit, you can't add anything new without canceling something old. This forces your brain to make trade-offs. And trade-offs reveal true priorities. If you have to choose between keeping Spotify or adding Disney Plus, you'll figure out pretty quickly which one you actually value more. Third, use the annual payment hack. A lot of subscriptions offer a discount if you pay annually instead of monthly. And this might sound counterintuitive, but it actually helps. When you pay $120 once a year instead of $10 12 times, your brain feels the pain of that payment. You notice it, you evaluate it. And if you're not using it, you're way more likely to cancel before the next annual payment hits. Monthly payments are invisible, annual payments are events. Fourth, embrace the rotation strategy. You don't need to have every streaming service at the same time. Subscribe to Netflix for 2 months. Binge everything you want. Cancel it. Subscribe to HBO Max. Binge that. Cancel it. Move to the next one. Is it slightly less convenient? Yes, but you'll save hundreds of dollars a year. And honestly, the forced rotation makes you more intentional about what you're watching. When you have access to everything all the time, you watch nothing. When you have access to one thing for a limited time, you actually use it. And fifth, the most important one, change your default from keep to cancel. Right now, your default is to keep every subscription unless you have a strong reason to cancel. Flip that. Your new default is to cancel everything unless you have a strong reason to keep it. That mental shift alone will save you more money than any budgeting app. Here's what nobody tells you about subscriptions. They're not just a business model, they're a bet that you won't pay attention, that you'll forget, that you'll be too busy, too tired, too overwhelmed to click the cancel button. And for most people, that bet pays off. Month after month, year after year. But you're not most people. Because most people don't watch videos like this. Most people don't think about the psychology of their spending. Most people just let it happen. And those people are funding an entire industry with money they don't even realize they're spending. But you're different. You're here. You're paying attention. And that attention is the most valuable thing you have. Because once you see how the trap works, you can't fall for it anymore. The subscription economy depends on invisibility, on autopilot, on that little voice in your head that says, it's just $9.99. It doesn't matter. But it does matter. Every single one of those charges matters. Not because $9.99 is a lot of money, but because $9.99 times 14 subscriptions times 12 months times 10 years is $15,120. And that's assuming prices don't go up, which they will because they always do. So here's my challenge to you. Don't just watch this video and nod along. Actually do something. Today, right now, pull out your phone, open your bank app, find one subscription you're not using and cancel it. Just one. See how it feels. I'm willing to bet it feels pretty good. And once you've done it once, it gets easier to do it again and again until you're only paying for things you actually value, things you actually use, things that make your life genuinely better. Everything else, let it go. Your bank account will thank you, and so will future you.